Today we are honored to have my friend Clark Morin joining us today. Clark, how are you?
Happy and honored to be here, Cyrus, Braxton. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm happy and stoked to be here.
Let's go.
Cool. So just give a little intro as to who you are for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah, my name's Clark. I was born and raised here in Chicago, and I currently live here, though I spent a lot of my time actually in Los Angeles and New York as well as a kid. So I've been all over the place, you can say. Made my way back here, though, made my way back home. And apart from my little journey around the country, primarily as of right now, I'm focused on my working career. I work a full-time job, 9 to 5. But as well, I'm a passionate marathon runner. So I compete with other people, but mostly myself for the most part. But I've been able to really find a love for the sport and amazing connections from it. So that's just a little bit based on me.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, this is our second runner on the podcast out of 3 guests so far. And I guess the context of that is just I know runners and they just happen to be perfect for this episode. You are the definition of discipline. You are the most dialed person that I know when it comes to sport. And that covers training, nutrition, sleep, like all of it. So I just want you to first kind of dive into why are you that way and kind of give context to like what that has done for you in your running career.
Thank you. First and foremost, I appreciate the compliment. I think that, discipline comes with practice, and I most certainly was not perfect whatsoever, and still actually finding many ways to continue to test discipline with myself. I think when it comes to physical endeavors, I've always liked to stay active, and so when I find something that I want to be better in, and specifically if it's a sport or just whether it's a lift in the gym or in this very obvious case running, I tend to find the practice of practicing that specific medium to be quite easy in a way. If I care about it, I do it. And so running is something I deeply care about. And so being able to show up every single day for it, started as a choice and it became second nature as I progressed with my running career. And I think chucking it up to, mom and dad, they're the reason I've seen them work so hard throughout both of their careers. And they're not athletes by any means. I don't know necessarily if I am even, but they taught me what hard work is. They taught me what persistency and consistency can lead to. And with that, I gave it my all, and I'm still giving it my all within the sport as of right now. And learning, I think, going back to testing different aspects of discipline, I'm learning to apply the same discipline to my career and my life outside of running, my relationships, my job, and everything. There's so much that we can all work on, I think, as humans, and so the running is a great one for me because I can display what consistency can do over a prolonged period of time. And now I'm actually at a unique part of my life where I'm trying to apply that same consistency to the non-physical endeavors. So, yeah.
So why running?
My mom wouldn't let me play football. Actually, my dad wouldn't let me play football. So thank you, Dad. No concussions for me yet. But no, on a serious note, I found running actually because I wanted to run away, no pun intended there, but I wanted to run away from swimming. I started as a swimmer, and I swam at the Latin school here in Chicago, actually, for a majority of years. It was the first sport that I was really good at, and I took it with me all the way until 8th grade. But the thing was I didn't actually like swimming at all. It was, it was something I was good at, and my parents made sure I knew how to swim and then saw that I was good at it. And I started hating it, to be quite honest with you. It was just one of those sports that you don't really know, it's not cool. None of my friends did it. I was always alone when I did it. And I was able to do some cool things with it. I qualified for the Junior Olympics when I was in 8th grade, but completely was out of my league when it came to that competition because my head was never actually in it. I was naturally good at it, but natural talent only takes you so far. You have to have that commitment. And so after after 8th grade, I made the decision to join track and put swimming on the back burner for a little bit because I wanted to try something new. And for the first time, I think it was a sense of my own choice, my own endeavor. No one told me to run. I didn't even know if I could, but I knew that I had a choice here. And I chose track because I didn't want to play volleyball. I knew I wouldn't be good at that, that's for sure. But the endurance sports, I kind of had a knack for running since I swam. And, swimming obviously just opened up my aerobic capacity so much already as a kid, and doing it for 7 years brought me a lot of benefit and gain. So I was a long distance guy on the track team, and it worked out well. I couldn't sprint, still can't sprint, but I ran the mile, and that was my first little glimpse at running. And from there, took me into cross country in high school. I was on the varsity team. I don't think that says much though, because my school was so small and all the cool kids played football. Not me. So, yeah, it started off as just choice because it was my choice. I never had the choice before to really choose a sport that I wanted to do, or, that. And I think as a kid I think sometimes sports can be exactly like your whole personality if you let it, if you make it. And it can be a way for you to meet your friends and really just grow socially in a way. And so by me making the choice, it was a choice of my own, and I was solely behind that. But also it led to an avenue of me being able to continually make my own choices after that. It was just the gateway, if that makes sense. And from there, I've had to make a lot of different choices in my life. Some that were really hard, but I think that the continual practice of allowing that that decision factor to be at play is something that as humans we need. And I'm happy that running was that really first door opener for me.
So I guess to close this loop of context, you get into running when, or let's say, okay, you ran in high school. When did you get back into running?
Yeah. I didn't run at all in college. I wasn't good enough to run, and running wasn't as special to me as it was then. It wasn't as special at all to me. It was just what I did, right? It was what I did in high school. I went to Loyola here in Chicago, didn't run at all, just went to the gym every once in a while, did my 4 years there. But actually, during the pandemic, when the world kind of shut down for a while, that is when my spark with running reignited, because I mentioned before, I've always liked to be a physical person. I've always liked to exercise at least somewhat. So when that was kind of taken away from all of us, I looked for kind of an outlet, and I let myself go outside once a day. And for that one day outing, I would go run. And it turned in, 4-mile run to a 5-mile run to a 7-mile run. And I was born on April 7th, and 7's always been my number. So I just started running 7 miles every single day for weeks, months, however long I remember like they kept pushing it another 3 months, another something. And we just all were like, oh, okay, well, like we're locked in for another month here, another month there, 3 months there. And so for all the days that we were locked in, I would go run. And that led me, I believe, to eventually pursuing, the running route that I've been on now. it was just that initial reignition. But this time I was older. Once again, I chose to do this, and it allowed me some mental clarity from all the craziness that was going on in the world at the time. It was my one time just for me. I was still a student at the time, so I was doing online school, and it was just it was the highlight of my day. Every single day would be to just go and get that run in. And I can get into how, it led me to my first marathon, which was a charity marathon. And that led me to learning about how you can qualify for this one really special marathon that is touted to be the best marathon ever. And that's the Boston Marathon. And so the innately competitive person that I am, the person who loves physical activity, the person who loves, to test the new waters, I wanted to qualify. And the naivety that I started with was thinking that I could do that on my first go, my first race, my first marathon. And I was so wrong. I got beat to a pulp that day, and humbled beyond belief. And it took a lot of work and a lot of persistency and a lot of consistency as we talk. But within, the next 2 years, I ended up hitting that qualifying time, and I ended up running it at the Chicago Marathon here. And that was really, I think, the start of my whole little journey, where I would see how far I could possibly take it in this sport, and just test myself continuously.
So with dedication being so clear as like the forefront of who you are as a person, mm-hmm. and you say that it's like this competitiveness that you have with yourself and with the time, and that's what running does. It gives you a very clear goal to have. Do you think that allowing a competitive edge to drive discipline or dedication, do you think that that's something that's just kind of built in, or do you think that people can tap into that, or do you see it as something to work on, or is it just something that's innate?
I think it can go a little bit of both ways. I think as humans, I think we all have it. I think again, it has to, in order for anyone to really proceed with dedication and persistency towards something, I think you have to have that care and that passion behind it. If that's not, running, it might be lifting for someone. It might be knitting for someone. It might be something completely that, out of left field, out of pocket. But when you are so focused and so obsessed, I think, with the idea of chasing more, for me, this was chasing that time, like you said. It's chasing a time, yes. It's chasing a faster time. It's chasing quite literally the number on the clock, moving my legs faster so that number gets smaller. And that is quite literally an objective sort of display of how successful I am at the marathon in a way. But in a way as well, it's a clear representation, I think, to the hard work and the passion that I have overall for the sport. I don't think that there are, specific ways that I can showcase my commitment for other things, but I can, at least in the way of running. I can post my runs. I can connect with other people about running. I can motivate in ways, I guess, people to get out there and run just by taking a picture of my watch and posting it on there as well. And at the end of the day, it's all because I'm passionate about this sport. And I've learned a lot of these lessons from quite literally just trial and error, first time experience. But I think that to me, with running, I'm as passionate as, an artist working on a film or a painting, right? It became what I do. It no longer turned into the grind. It no longer turned into the needing motivation. I haven't had motivation to run in years now. It just became a part of me at the end of the day. And I think we're all capable of that. I think it just has to be what is your passion and what are you willing to do to get the most out of yourself for that passion.
Talk a little bit about, you said earlier, something you brought up that I really like is that you talked about it's less about competing with others and competing with yourself. And I think that's something that's really attractive to me about Goggins. People love to call David out on social media, I would do this or I could do that or I could beat you here. And David's always I could care less. This isn't about me trying to beat someone else. I'm only doing this for myself. I'm only competing with myself here. So I really don't care if you can outrun me or not. What is your relationship like with competition?
I think at the end of the day, yeah, Goggins is very right actually with that. I don't agree with everything that Goggins says because that guy is wild, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a competitive person, and the people that I surround myself with are all competitive as well. And am I gonna be the first to say? I'm not the first to say, and I'll say this with honesty. I compete with my friends. I do. I compete with Eric Floberg a million times over. He's my training partner, but he's also we show up at the track together. We're not friends for a little bit. I can say all the positive things, but I'm trying to beat him every single time.
Yeah.
Same goes with the people that I meet on online. I want to be the fastest out of everyone. But, and I say this but with clear intention, that is also one of the honest least concerns that I have, because I know at the end of the day that the person who I'm most competitive with is staring right back at me when I look in a mirror, because I'm the one who sets my limits and I'm the one who also breaks them. There's no one who has the power to take that from me. There's nobody who's going to stop me. And if they are, they're just a hater. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, who cares? But the only person who's really capable of stopping me from hitting my goal, whether it's a time in the marathon, whether it's a salary that I want to make at work, whether it's a conversation that needs to be had, but will be a hard one to have with my significant other, the only person who's going to stop me on any of those endeavors is me. And I think that running is a really good sport where you learn that lesson, because quite literally, you don't have anyone else to blame but yourself.
Yeah.
That goes to the way I missed my time goal for Boston. I was trying to run a 2:35. I ran a 2:37, right? Great time, tough course, but at the end of the day, that was on me. Same thing with Indy. I was trying to run 2:30. I ran 2:28. So I slammed it out of the park that day, and I was happy. I hold myself accountable for that. And then most recently, I hold myself accountable for the first race in my 5-year journey of marathoning where I didn't even finish. I didn't even run 10 miles. I ran 7, and I had to pull myself out of the race because of a hamstring strain. And I said it immediately that it just wasn't my day, but I think that was a lie. I think personally, I just did a lot of wrong things within that build for the race. And I learned a lot of lessons, and I'm still currently learning right now the aftermath of what I put myself through. But all of that was with the intent that I'm in control of my own destiny. Nobody else has that on me. And the only one who I should truly, really be competitive with is myself, because I don't know where my ceiling is, and I never will. But the only one who can prevent me from reaching that is me.
So I see a lot of myself and you in the sense of like dedication not being the issue, but rather maybe too far in the other direction. You talked about how now you're having to apply the lessons that you've learned from running to other aspects of your life, in your career, your relationships, all of that. What has happened to allow you to have that insight that you need to start applying these things, these lessons to the rest of your life?
Well, something clearly happened, which was kind of a slap in the face wake up call. That was the marathon that I just tried. I attempted to run a 2:25 in New York. You were very much so there, so you got a great video clip of me saying I feel like my hamstring is about to rip off. But that was, and probably will be, one of the best experiences and things to ever happen to me and in my lifetime. And I'll touch on that in a moment, but I wanted to bring up one thing that you said before that, and that is the discipline act is there, and you're right. And quite literally, in my case, I see what happens when you show up for something every single day. I never thought that I would run the times that I run right now, because these times are no longer average. I don't think, at least. I hope not. I'm working really hard to make sure that these aren't average, but I worked really hard to get here, and that hard work, like I said, it's been over 5 years since I started, and I've showed up practically every single day for it. On the days that I didn't run, I still ate well, I still slept well, I still had the intention that I was going to run the next day. It's always been there. It's been a deliberate action of mine to pursue and chase and get better at this thing of running. So I have this kind of formula, and the formula is very simple. Just show up. And as easy as it is for me now to show up in running, it's been more of a challenge in other ways to show up, career-wise, relationship-wise, just friend-wise. And I think I've really understood that I've dumped a lot. I put a lot of my eggs into this one basket, right? And that's okay. I've learned a lot of great things from it. But I'm at a spot now where I think that I'm understanding that in order to have this same effect from running on the other aspects, I need to be willing to put just as much time, commitment, and effort that I have into running into these things. And what I'm at a strange crossroads in right now is that finding that I don't know if the two can necessarily exist simultaneously without one giving a little bit more. That's kind of what I've been able to test after the last marathon that I DNF'd, did not finish. Because it kind of, rude awakening, call it. I don't know. It was an awakening, let me tell you. I was able to quite literally stop and realize that things haven't been going well for a while. In terms of my training, there was a lot that I pushed aside in pursuit of the goal. The discipline was there, like I said, but the health wasn't. The mental stability wasn't. The focus wasn't even there. It's something I haven't said yet really, but on the start line of that day with the beautiful lake that we were on, I wasn't even thinking I was going to run a marathon that day. I almost, you could have asked me, like, what are you doing here? And I might have even said to you, I don't know, because I just wasn't mentally there. So all these warning signs were present, but I still pushed them away because I had a goal, and that goal was to compete that day. It didn't end up happening. And after leaving the race, not successful, even finishing, I was just left with the question of why. Why did this happen? Why? And immediately I started saying, like, why didn't I catch the warning signs sooner? Why didn't I check in with myself sooner? And it was, it was that consistent effort that I've learned and that I've pursued for 5 years that almost got in the way of that. It was like the only one who stopped me from taking any sort of accountability, taking any sort of action towards addressing some of these doubts or these concerns or these pains or these feelings that I had was yet again me. Everyone around me started, especially my better half, she was like, you're not the same. What's going on here? And so with all this, McCurdy happened. I failed that day. I'll call it a failure. But I learned so much. And I took time off of running afterwards. And I started learning how to incorporate a little bit of that discipline and that motivation and that mentality of consistently showing up to incredible aspects outside of running in my life. And I'm still figuring things out right now, I'll tell you, but I'm really grateful that I've had this time. I'm not focusing on running as much right now. I'm focusing on getting healthy. I'm focusing on getting healthy both physically and mentally. I'm trying to put work in different areas. Just taking the steps that I need right now for me and truly listening to myself, because I didn't do that for a long time. And I chucked it up to being tough. I chucked it up to continually chasing the time. I chucked it up to continually competing with my friends and at the end of the day, competing with Clark. And yeah.
You bring up the mental part. Walk me through just how absolutely crushing is it to go through this such a long build for this race? How long was your build exactly?
On Instagram, it was 82 days.
Sure.
Go check out my count. It's right there. It says McCurdy DNF, and I have logged all the training there.
But so like you commit 82 days to something just to DNF. Like
Just to DNF.
Is that, how do you navigate that in a sense of just like not letting it absolutely crush you? Because I feel like it would be very easy to just sit there and be, woe is me. Like I'm ruined now because of this.
I'll be straight up. I did let it crush me.
Sure.
I let it crush me. I let it crush me as I walked back the half mile that I needed to get to where everyone was. I let it crush me the ride home. I let it crush me when we went to dinner and we were celebrating just one of us, Eric, not me.
Yeah.
I let it crush me for days on end after that, because I was supposed to show up that day and I didn't. And this is the one thing that I put a lot of my eggs into, right? I put all my eggs in this basket, and now I show up to fail in a way. I kind of thought to myself afterwards, what do I do? I had a little bit of like not an identity crisis. I'm not a professional athlete. I don't do this for a living. I do this for fun, right? But I don't remember or even recall one day of those 82 days where I could actually say I had fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I think the mental component of the weight of all this, the pressure that I put on myself, that kind of built up over time. I didn't find joy at all in this build. And actually, I've noticed a lot of, I started lacking in multiple ways. It was the first build where my workouts didn't go as planned. There were some that went well, but a majority of them I started slipping up. I lost a lot of confidence. I lost a lot of just pride in myself because I didn't know if I was actually going to do this thing or not. I just put on the front in a way of trying to stay strong, trying to look strong, trying to be strong. But deep down, I wasn't. I was lying to myself.
Do you think that social media and this all being publicly documented kind of exacerbates all of this in a way? Because you know that these people are like expecting you to do these things.
You know, in a way, I think it does, but at the same time, I think that I construed a story in my head to really say, what I've learned, what I've learned transparently, what I learned from being more transparent as of recent. I've disclosed some underlying health conditions recently. I've talked about my mentality. I've had the opportunity to talk about how the race went already. The support and the way people relate to that is so much more powerful and meaningful. And so in a way, I was kind of afraid of looking weak or looking not like the motivating factor that I want to be. But I've found in turn that opening up and actually expressing all of that is far more powerful than shielding it. And I've also, not shielding it from myself was the first step. Yeah. And that's where, I haven't spoke about it as much recently. I'm finally ready to now. I've had to take some time. I've had to talk things over with my family and my friends, my therapist. I've had to just kind of see what I can dig out of myself because I buried so much during this time. And now I'm at a spot where it's like I feel like I'm just kind of starting fresh a little bit, where I'm coming to grips with the fact that I didn't do it right, but I didn't do it right for multiple reasons. The DNF was what I like to call the cherry on top to a mountain of other issues that I neglected through the pure act of pursuing and chasing a goal. That's what happens when you're motivated. Yeah. It can happen. It happens to the best of us. It happens to us. You hear stories about all the time, people focusing too much on work or focusing too much on this or that or anything, and they miss a lot of really important things.
Yeah, and you also talk about, you just said that you were learning a lot through learning how to be transparent and being transparent for the first time and stuff. Something I'm interested in is, and I feel like this is so true, and I've been through this myself, and I've seen a lot of other people who are like this. Chris Williamson talks a lot about how men tend to feel like they need to earn sufficient man points in order to feel like they're worthy of opening up. It's easy for someone like a Chris Bumstead, who's world-class bodybuilder, it's easy for him to open up and share his heart and be all those things. And then people are like, they applaud him for being that way. But it's easy for, a more normal person who just works a 9 to 5 and, just runs for fun. Yeah. It's easy to feel like I'm not worthy of opening up. I'm not worthy to share all these things because I'm not this, I haven't earned this part in my life yet to do that. Did that play a part at all?
I think that a lot of the time with, especially the social media stuff, I'm no big influencer. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think I've lost followers since opening up, actually. But hey, well, that's probably because I'm not posting any reels right now. Sorry about that. I make horrible content anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But what I can agree with completely is the fact that I am just a guy who likes to run, and I don't know why half the people follow me do per se, but I'm very honored and glad that they do. Yeah. But I think that a lot of the time too, I'm just another account. I'm just another person. I'm just another entity in this little social media bubble. Yeah. And part of me thinks, who would care to hear this? They just want to see the legs move. They just want to see the times. And B, I get a little insecure about the thought of opening up because it's I feel like I don't know if I necessarily earned that right. But also something that I've learned is that I don't know if I've ever really felt like I've earned that right. And that's something that I've had to really work on, something that my girlfriend has really done a great job with, allowing and, helping me feel, and, something I mentioned before, but I work with a therapist now. I have been ever since the beginning of the year, and something that he's been really, really great with. I haven't really been transparent as much as I should be online, but also in my actual day-to-day life, outside, away from the whole social media thing. I think it's just something that I've always struggled with.
Yeah.
So moving forward, how do you not come back to those old habits of kind of, in a sense, like defining yourself and your self-worth from your running and your success there?
Yeah. I think I've learned in this time there's just a lot more to life. And the thing is that I'm not going anywhere from running. That's one thing that's not going to change. I'm going to come back. And I plan to come back strong. I plan to come back healthy. I plan to come back happy. And when I have all that in line, that's when I'll sign up for my next race. And when I also have all of that in line, strength, health, happiness, I know that I'm going to have a bunch of other things lined up outside of a race. I'm going to have experiences. I'm going to have moments. I'm going to have a new puppy in a little bit, right? Like, I'm going to ensure that my life doesn't revolve around the next race, the next time goal, the next build, whatever we call it, right? I'm going to make sure my life revolves around everything, because for so long, I think my imbalance allowed me to progress exponentially. But there's a certain point in time when the continual pursuit drains and works you down for everything that you are until you're nothing. And that was my result. I showed up to race and I don't think I had anything left. And so the goal now really is just to build back Clark, to build back what I want, to find what I want really, and to kind of find my why again. Because my why at first was health, opportunity, chasing whatever the best version of myself, whatever I called it back then. But I don't think I can get any of that from running anymore. I think that I need to find a new why, and I haven't found it yet. I think, again, I'll find it when I sort out everything else. I'm currently kind of digging myself out of a hole that I put myself in, and I'm okay being here right now. Is it fun? No. I still run. I do like a grandpa shuffle every once in a while because I can't run fast right now. I'm trying to get everything kind of in line and backfiring on all cylinders, but it's going to take time. And in that time, I'm just kind of working towards, like I said, everything else outside of running. And it's a beautiful opportunity for me right now because I'm finding a lot of peace and security within this moment that I'm in.
So you said that there were some underlying health issues that you found out about. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. I think before even diving into that, I'll just say this. Whether you're an athlete, whether you're not, whether you're just, I don't know, you're a human. If you're listening to this, you probably are a human being. And if you think that something is off, kind of like we say, see something, say something, feel something, do something. That's what I learned. I see a doctor yearly. I go to the dentist twice a year. I do my things, right? I run. I eat healthy for the most part. I try and sleep well, but I also run 90 to 100 miles a week, and that is considered extreme, right? And I do this for months on months on months on months. I don't take time off. I push myself and I run myself into the ground, right? That's what that is quite literally what happened. But everything in between all of that, I haven't been feeling right for honestly 2 years now. I'd like to say. I just started noticing fatigue, tiredness, lack of focus, and a lot of the times it doesn't show up in my running because I tend to run at 4 a.m. because I'm crazy. But you wake up and you're on your best version of yourself that day. I'm naturally a morning person, right? And that's what I wake up at 4 so I can go run. That's my purpose, right? But what precedes the run, what follows the run is the exhaustion, is the like almost zombie mode personality that I can sometimes be. Is it nutrition related? It can be. Am I eating enough? I don't know. Is it sleep related? I mean, your body can only recover so much through if you're sleeping 6 to 7 hours, but you're running twice a day sometimes and you're putting 18, 20 miles on your days, sometimes you need more than 6 to 7 hours of sleep. And maybe you need more time spent not running when all you do is run, right? I did this for a while, a long, long time. And I noticed just continual lack of energy and, again, motivation, passion. All of a sudden, I'm starting the McCurdy build. I'm not even excited. Like I said, I didn't have one single day where I really smiled during that build. I just started really becoming a shell. And going back to what I said, feel something, do something, I felt all of this. I felt bad. I didn't feel good. I hid it. And that's why I hit, going back to being open and transparent, I hid it because A, I didn't want people to know, but B, really, really speaking, I didn't want me to know. I didn't want Clark to address it, because if I addressed it, it would be real. And that, I think, is something that's so scary for people, is admitting or understanding with themselves that something is wrong and taking action. So I didn't take any action. And like I said, DNF, cherry on top to all my actions and all the choices that I made. I've been throwing darts for a while in this time off of training for a marathon and, getting back to parts in life. And lo and behold, I got my blood drawn for the first time 3 days ago. So this is like fresh, hot off the press, but I have incredibly low testosterone levels. And that's kind of like a very important hormone for men specifically, right? Especially, I think, if you're pursuing athletic endeavors and you're chasing goals and you're pushing your body to extremes. We know, I actually, we don't know, but I do know that running high volume does take a hit on your testosterone levels, right? The funny thing about this, though, is, like I said, this draw was 3 days ago. And for literally better, not for worse, I really haven't been running that much. I still run a good volume, but I'm not running that critical 80 plus mileage weeks that usually take hits on your testosterone levels. That's been studied. If you go over 80 for a prolonged period of time, you will see decreases and drops within your testosterone. Sucks, but hey, it happens, right? I'm 6 weeks, 7 weeks post McCurdy, post major marathon build, post anything, and I'm pulled at 235, which is below 300, and that is for a 26-year-old male like myself, that is considered to be very low.
So it was 230 something when you first got it drawn, or is it
3 days ago?
3 days ago, it's currently 230.
I'm pretty sure it's 230 right now while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
So for context, I'm not running
Yeah.
90, 95 mile weeks right now, and I'm pulling a 230 something. Wow. So there's people I posted this today. I'm starting to open up about all of this again, but there's a lot of speculation that I was probably training for all of that marathon with sub 200, 100 something testosterone levels, which is, Cyrus says, what bodybuilders get to at one point or another when they're natural and they're getting that lean. I felt awful, physically and mentally. Like I said, I lost a lot of just confidence in my ability in myself. And the really unfortunate part about all of this is that it seeped into parts outside of running.
Yeah.
It seeped into my relationship. It seeped into how I viewed myself, and in turn, that played a part in how I treated myself and treated others. Right, and that's when it really just becomes a train wreck. It was a very hard weekend during that weekend, but it was a hard weekend because the marathon happened and that sucked. But following the marathon was when I had to come to grips with all of it. And my mom and my girlfriend were there. And I mean, my gosh, it was a rough time. It was a lot of, it was almost like two therapists in Clark. It was crazy, but they were there for me. But it was also really encouraging me to actually open up about what was going on that whole time. So I felt off and I did nothing about it. Yeah. I felt off for a while, and partially this is something that I think also needs to be talked about, but I mentioned that I started feeling off maybe 2 years ago. And it took me 2 years actually to get the panel. That's the thing. I think the healthcare system is kind of funny in ways, and I actually expressed a lot of interest.
That's a good way to put it.
It's quite funny.
Yeah.
I expressed interest in getting a full panel to see my hormone levels, to see where my testosterone levels fell, because I knew that I was a long distance runner, and this was 2 years ago in 2023. I was denied the first time, and I was also younger then. I was like 24, and naturally by nature, I really don't actually like to push back. So I just walked out of there. I said, okay, the doctor said I'm healthy. Cool. Same thing actually happened again the next year. And I was still PRing in the marathon, so nothing really mattered, right?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I DNF'd my 9th marathon, I guess. And I walked into my annual checkup because the marathon was like 4 days before my birthday. So I was really looking forward to a good week. And I was like, okay, it's still going to be a good week. But anyway, annual visit happens around my 26th birthday. And I marched in there and I literally said, I'm not leaving without a panel, because I know something's off now at this point, right? And I had these conversations and this realization that something is off. I still took a while. They had to refer me to a different provider in order to get the panel, which is why I only got it done 3 days ago. But this was the first time. I feel like I've been throwing darts for a little bit in this time off. I've been trying to figure out what's going on with me. And this is the first dart that hit the board. And I was mad for a second because I had been trying to get this for 2 years, but the amount of grace that I felt, which is very weird when you look at a testosterone score being so low, but the amount of grace that I felt seeing that number, it was affirmation on that I was right about something.
Yeah, there's a lot of relief when you finally receive like the confirmation of something that you knew for a long time.
Exactly. And this is now when I said, happy, healthy, and strong, really. Like this is my next goal now. It's I'm not chasing 225 anymore. I mean, I'll beat that sometime. Don't get me wrong. But I'm chasing my health, because that is that is what's important. That's why I started running in the first place, right? Was my health. And now, in some wild way, it's actually probably been one of the hardest hitters on my health. And so I have to kind of navigate a new chapter where I'm learning to optimize, optimize my nutrition, optimize what real good sleep looks like, optimize what real training looks like right now. Because I'm so stubborn, I still think that I should be running 15 miles a day right now, but I'm choosing not to. And because I know that I have bigger goals in mind right now. And those goals involve me getting back to 100%.
Yeah, talk a little bit about, obviously not medical advice, but what are you doing to address it right now?
As of right now, well, if I can harp one more time on our funny healthcare system, I actually have to get redrawn again in a week and a half. So insurance purposes won't allow for any sort of formal treatment to happen until I test low a second time.
Wow.
So I actually get another draw on Monday, June 2nd. So, I mean, I'm expecting it to be pretty low again because I don't know. I'm not going to really change anything. Plus, I'll be exhausted because I get my puppy on the 31st, and that means I won't be sleeping at all. So, I do another draw. But I have already started, and actually Cyrus, when I texted you yesterday, sent me over looking into natural ways to kind of elevate those levels. I think the primary focus for me right now is going to be fixing my quality sleep. That is when testosterone is produced, is when we sleep. And I think that sleep is something that we talk about a lot in this day and age. I think a lot of health conscious people know that sleep is important, but there's something that I do want to open up here on about when it does come to sleep. It's not about the time, but it's about the quality of the sleep that you get, right? And so I can sleep for 7 hours and be considerably healthy with that amount, right? But the issue, and the thing that I want to open up on, is that the body that I'm currently in right now is beyond fatigued. It's chronically fatigued, and my resting heart rate while I sleep is not what it used to be. It's higher. There are things that just my heart rate variability as well, because I wear this Garmin for better or for worse. All of my metrics are off, and they have been off for a while. And so there are things that I think that I can be doing a little bit better. Trying to consistently go to bed at the same time is one of them. I don't do that. Definitely, I need to find a way to curb my midnight snacking, because that has a play on it for sure. I don't actually stay up till midnight, but eating a lot before bed has a play on it. And as a marathon runner, a lot of my days are sometimes spent with getting in those extra calories. When I'm at the office, I don't want to literally disgust all of my coworkers with how much I eat, but I eat a ton of food, right? Yeah. And so sometimes I go to bed, or if I have a big workout the next morning on the track, like 18-mile session, I load up on carbs before I go to sleep. All these things, right? We know, like, marathoners eat a lot, but I eat so much, and sometimes it destroys and wrecks my sleep. And then I'm not recovering from these sessions that I do. And it's this ever building snowball that, again, I've rolled myself, but it was just, I learned the best through learning the hard way. I think a lot of us do. So actually prioritizing what real quality sleep looks like is probably my number one. And two, probably just, from what I've read and learned so far, I'm going to start eating a lot more healthy fats, trying to get those avocados, salmon, nuts and legumes and everything in, just because it's all about the balance. But I know that, honestly, we live in such a protein-focused age, and that message kind of, I mean, I eat a ton of protein, don't get me wrong, but that's just because I like steak and chicken. But I think we live in such a macro focused society, and that's okay for some people, but I've always been a firm believer that you need balance on every single plate. And a lot of the time we just focus on protein and carbs, but fats are essential for men, and actually more importantly, they're essential for women.
Yeah.
And hormone regulation as a whole. So those are my main two right now. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on TRT personally.
Yeah.
I want to,
Especially this young.
No, I don't. I have no interest in that. So I kind of just want to apply the marathon logic of just consistently showing up for this goal and apply it now to my testosterone levels, quite literally. And Doc, I don't know if I'm going to document all of that along the way, but I'll definitely do check-ins, that's for sure. And at the end of the day, I just want to feel better, because now knowing that I struggle with lower levels, I've asked myself multiple times throughout the past year, 2 years, like, is it normal to feel this way? I remember when I was younger, even just a couple of years back, I felt different. I felt more lively. I felt more energetic. I felt more personable. And where did that go? Did that just change with age? Did I just grow into who I am now? Or maybe this has a factor. And maybe I've just been living this for so long that I forgot what it's like to feel what, is considerably actually healthy.
You bring up nutrition. I do want to talk about nutrition really quickly, because I am such a nutrition nerd.
Let's go.
Something that's always interested me is running diets in particular, because I definitely would probably identify as myself more as a lifter than a runner. I do run a good bit, but definitely not as much as I
You're a hybrid
lift.
athlete, actually.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
And my diet is definitely focused a lot more around lifting than running. Like I eat a very high protein diet and all of that stuff. But so like with runners, almost all runners, like their runner's body is a real thing. Like you definitely have like the archetype body of like, because you got to be more efficient at running specifically. So like usually fairly low muscle mass, et cetera, very thin. How do you balance in diet? How do you balance adequate protein intake while also still having to consume the massive amounts of carbs that you have to in order to perform? Because like you're like just constantly atrophying all the time.
Yeah. It's a very good question you ask, and sometimes I don't even know if I'm the best person to answer it. But I focus a lot on getting my protein in as a runner. And the reason is because I've always liked to be an all around athlete as well. Yeah. The hybrid boy, not
the hybrid.
actually, but I obviously know the value that carbs bring me as a runner. I load up before sessions. I've also experimented differently. There's times when I was a walking carb. That's what I used to call myself. And then there's also times when I experimented with like carb cycling a little bit, and also carb timing as well. I think carb timing is now kind of my forte, because I know that I can get the most out of my system without continually loading on the carbs, because I did that for so long, and it was just all I knew, right? It was like the Bobo's bars, shout out to Bobo's, I love you guys, before pretty much every single day, like first thing I woke up, after the run, like there's so many different ways to go about it in this point. And so I think I've tried a handful of them. I've also tried different diets as well. I was a vegan for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My mom raised me vegetarian as well. I now completely eat everything and anything. I wouldn't call, like, I'm not a carnivore by any means, but like all I think about is steak.
Yeah.
No, And so again, what am I doing right now? I'm again just talking about carbs and protein. And I think that can also kind of lead to what we were just talking about, and maybe another reason as to why my hormones have taken a hit. But at least in my example, I almost never really had an issue with eating enough because I'm such a foodie at heart. And when it came down to what I was doing for what I was trying to achieve in the marathon, there was almost no real way for me to eat more than I should, if that makes sense. I just continue, like I could just throw it back, right?
What was your like total caloric intake per day?
You know, I'll say this. I don't track calories, and I don't track calories because there was multiple times in my life actually where I struggled with an eating disorder. And so I think that what I found is by bringing back out the apps, I kind of revert to old thought patterns and modalities. So the thing about using those calorie apps though is that it also in a way I think gives you a superpower. And I've heard people refer to it as a superpower, but it's kind of knowing the calories that you have within your food. You know how many calories are in an apple, right? Or you know how many calories are in 4 ounces of chicken, right? You learn these things through trial and error and also documenting if that's what you choose to do. If I can give you an easy estimate, I was probably clearing 4,500 to 5,500 calories a day.
Wow.
Easily.
Yeah.
It wasn't always pretty, that's for sure. I learned to love making things like oatmeal bowls for dessert. That was a staple every single night because the next day I'd go up and run a minimum of 10 miles, maximum of 20 every single day. And that's what life looks like. It just looks like waking up, you know, coffee and honey if you're going for an easy run, coffee and an oatmeal bowl and a Go bar and electrolytes if you're going to do a Jeff Cunningham, that's my coach, track session. And that's what you do. I mean, if that, you have to fuel the body if you want to perform. Yeah. I've unfortunately been on both sides where I've been overfueled and fine. I've also been underfueled, and yeah, that's never a fun time. Never a fun time.
How did you initially get into nutrition? Like, you're very knowledgeable.
I actually got my undergraduate degree. I did exercise science at Loyola. So there was a couple of courses on nutrition within that part. But I think honestly, if I wasn't in my current 9-to-5 job, which I'm an analyst for a health tech company, I would be a chef. If that was my dream job. I had this conversation with Jacqueline, my girlfriend, the other day. It's like, money wasn't a thing. What would you be doing right now? I would own my own restaurant and I would cook. I'd be like Dan Churchill. Shout out to Dan Churchill, performance chef, because I love food. I love food science. I love the act of like, we know that we can put these things into our bodies and we can feel specific ways from certain things and certain ingredients, and there are healing properties to food. There's also a lot of negative outcomes from the food industry that we're in right now, right? And so I'm just such a foodie at heart. Like I love to eat. I think that's why running goes really well with that, because I run a ton, I eat a ton, and it all works out. But I've really come to love and learn how, like, just even playing with my carbohydrate intake before a workout. What does it feel like to do one with less carbs? What does it feel like to do one with excess carbs? Or what's my target number? You know, the little intricate detail behind that. It's fun to me. I think it comes with the passion in the sport as well, trying to perform my best, so I have to fuel my best. But I don't know, nutrition's just, since a kid, I've just loved to eat. At the end of the day, keeping it completely honest and real. And I don't think that'll ever change.
I have one final question for you.
Yeah.
And it's honestly something I'm curious about personally with you is I feel like you're in this middle ground of, in terms of social media, where it's like you kind of stepped into having a social media presence. And I'm curious, like, what are your goals with it? Like, do you want to approach social media as like a career, or is it just kind of like for fun? Or
I've thought about that a lot because we live in an age where social media can quite literally change your life if you pursue it and if you let it. I was always afraid to post on Instagram in high school, right? I still have my old account, but I created my account Clark.runs to just be my little entryway into social media, but away from all of my high school friends who still followed me, right? That's exactly why I did it. I didn't want anyone to know what I was doing. I was shy, and naturally I'm more of an introvert, I'd say. And so I started this account to just post my watch every single day to say, this is how many miles I ran. This is what I'm training for. And I did sort of step into social media a little bit. The account started to take off. I met people who gave me a platform, who allowed me time to flourish in the space a little bit. And then I hit some stops. I mean, I never intended any of that to be the case. And I've never approached social media with that kind of goal to kind of grow an audience and to deliberately kind of make choices to continually grow and make content for others and others' views and everything in between. But as I saw some, I've seen some wild things happen from it. I've been able to really relish in the amazing aspects of it. My social media following, like I said, is very minuscule compared to maybe even the potential that it could be. But the one thing that I can say right now is that the following I have is 100% organic, and the people that are there, I feel like I have this community that I couldn't possibly ever trade for anything. Do I want to grow faster? Do I want to test growth? Do I want to hit that 10K one day? Do I want to hit that 100K one day? I've seen my friends do it. I've seen the people who I compete with do it, right? I've seen, and I've looked at that, and I've gotten jealous in times. I've gotten envious in ways. But I kind of keep going back to that same thing of it's just another one part of my life. And there's a million things that I should be focused on right now and that I'm learning to be focused on right now. I wouldn't trade my 4,800 followers for 100,000 followers who I don't know at all right now. Because I have had conversations with these people. I've formed these relationships. I've met some incredible individuals because of it. Truthfully and honestly speaking, I'm here speaking with both of you because of it. And I think that just like everything else, I'll take social media at my own pace right now. And whatever that looks like in the future, I'll welcome it. But maybe I'll put a couple more eggs in that basket and we'll see what happens. But maybe I won't. And at the end of the day, I know I'm still going to have the same love and support because every single person there has been so supportive of me in this current patch that I'm in right now. And the most beautiful thing is that I'm quite literally kind of doing the opposite of what the account's named. I'm not really running that much, but the people are still there.
Yeah.
cool. So with that being said, where can people find you to give you a follow?
Well, thank you. I'm going to just plug it one more time. Yeah, Clark.runs on Instagram. I do post on TikTok too, but that is just the same reels I make for Instagram. Instagram is where I do everything. So Clark.runs on Instagram. Same thing on TikTok if that's what you fancy. But that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'll be on the Lakefront Path in Chicago. So I'm usually wearing a red BPN hat or something like that. So come say hi. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me on. This is by far the coolest setup, and I'm just so appreciative to be speaking with you and being able to share kind of a different take on running and life and health. It's been a lot of sunshine and rainbows until recent, and so I think talking about the recent is really beneficial in a lot of ways. So thank you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing too. Your message is really strong, and it's great what you guys are doing.
Thanks.
Clark Morin, everyone, thank you so much for watching. As always, it means the world to us. Whatever platform you're on, please do the appropriate action. Like, subscribe, leave a review, whatever the case may be. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.